Do you like stories? Well, today I have two for you, and actually are two true stories. And the first one is from 2 weeks ago. I was talking with a game developer, a successful one. They have a good hits now. And I was talking about how did you start? And actually at the beginning, it was really in the hype. Yes, when I was started, actually I created 4 games. It was going something like that. Really, you can see the bright eyes. And but he told me that they were not successful. They were just going a bit up, and then no scaling, no success. So I'm a curious person, and actually I was asking Matt, what's the difference? Why now you have a successful game, and back then, actually with 4 titles, you failed. Well, the answer, I think was relevant for the topic of today, was they actually didn't really get the meaning of LTV. I mean, they knew about that. Of course, they were using it, but they didn't aware how important it is to have a successful business. So nowadays there is an unskippable element that you really have to understand LTV. You have to bring LTV inside of your research for finding new titles that are going to be probably successful. You have to use in LTV just to enhance this elasticity on understanding what's going on with your numbers. You have to put LTV in the creation of featuring, for example, understanding how deep is going to be your title. And today, it's a presentation about LTV, but if LTV was a series, well, more a documentary. So we are not in the first season. We actually kind of season 5, let's say. And we're going to talk about how to create a prediction model, how we did it for one studio. And it's really showing you practically what kind of elasticity you can get and what kind of thinking you can leverage for this information. And because essentially what you want to achieve, you want to have a business that is working, a game that is making money. There is this equation that you really would like to have your LTV formula, your LTV value higher than some constraint like the CPI to have ROAS positive. So who I am, I'm a growth consultant. I have different years experience in marketing, working with apps and games, especially mobile. And recently I came to gaming. I'm really passionate about gaming, and I even spend my free time trying to learn Unity and maybe one day publish my game. I'm working at AppAgent. We are a mobile marketing agency working with app and games. We help them to create high-performance creatives and to help them in everything that is in between launching, validating a product, auditing, and scaling a game. But I promised to you 2 stories, so we are coming to the second one now, because today we are going to talk about a case study. And the case study is about our hero. The hero of the day is our client. And it's a relatively small studio that is called Dreamloft Games. They're from New Zealand, 2 to 5 people. And they managed to place one title in the charts, these Games Awards. We are working with this client now, working with them personally since more than 10 months. And it's a good title. They have good numbers, more than 2 million install. They managed to find this space in the top grossing. And they're monetizing mainly by ads, 80% plus. And what they were coming to us as agency, they were looking, okay, we think that we have a good game. Now we would like to scale. Back then we did an audit, and really in the surface looks good, looks really good. So retention was good, short, long terms. Then they even had a good streaming of organic. So there was kind of this product market fit, since that the people, the market could like the game. And some company are actually small indie developer are dreaming to have even one profitable channel, at least in the main geo. So it was looking good. And they even had 90 days payback time, or that's what it was claiming when I was coming. And yes, they were investing according to this, and everything was matching these 90 days. They were looking at MMP and checking the numbers, and try to compare the previous campaign with the new one, if it was performing the same against the other one. So it's a story. There is a hero, there is a problem, villain. I'm not sure if you can spot where is the problem here. But the problem is that, first of all, it's one channel that is profitable. And if it's just one, of course, you can try to scale. You can scale, actually, but then the risk is higher. So maybe you need to confront with more channels. Then the question is really 90 days, and especially, is 90-day payback time good? Is maybe too conservative for you, for your game? And what are you doing now? How are you using the data? Okay, you have this number in mind, 90 days payback time, and but it's really what really makes the difference. What will make you scale? Can you scale with this in mind? So the problem is that if you look at this at LTV, especially, like a number without a time where you can have to consider, you're just looking at the numbers, but they won't tell you that much. There is much more to understand. You really have to understand what is behind, what are the elements that are really impacting on LTV, and how can you leverage this information. And it's really important to bring this information to the user acquisition guy, to the product guy, just to enhance this discussion and go to the next level. So the question that we did before, is 90 days good or not? Well, definitely for some games, if you've been managed, it's really good. Actually, 90 days for some cash and grades, it's really great. Great payback time. Normally, the average is more 120. Even some titles go up to 365. So there are so many constraints. Today, we saw that there was someone mentioning that there is some threshold in terms of CPI that you have to meet to work in some countries, in some channel. If your curve is not high enough, the slope of the curve is not good enough, then you won't meet the balance, and you will have a lot of constraints. But if you know where are the constraints, if you know your numbers, then you can start to play. You can work to make it better. You can work with credit. So there is a lot of more possibility for you to improve your number and ideally to scale the game, and really to find this balance, to have this LTV more than CPI that let you go to the next level. And yeah, so much more than a number. I was talking with some of you yesterday night, and yes, this LTV is a question that there are so many questions around LTV. They can help a lot of different people in the company. On the market research, you want to see what kind of LTV I can expect in this market, in this niche. So there are some tools that can provide this information. But then when you start to build, and then you have this question about P&L, the CFO or someone, or the CEO that's really managing the money, they would like to understand, okay, I'm paying, but when I get money back, what's the cash flow? We saw yesterday the presentation for Paul and VC. So there are lot of things that you have to know about that. And today we're going to see in this story about how we improve the situation from our client, and from before and after that, in terms of LTV looks like that. So we went from really thinking about LTV, about the numbers, not spending that much time on this. Don't get me wrong, the developer was really good. They know they made to have a successful game. But we're not spending time on this except for product development. So, but you have to open the scope of LTV to market research, and as well to user acquisition. Especially in user acquisition, you want to reduce the risk of investing money, having a clear or more clear idea with prediction on what's going on or what you can expect from your campaign. So we were trying to help creating a simple, this is very important, it's a simple tool. I'm not a data analyst. So a simple tool that we could use as a user acquisition specialist, or really to leverage, understand the strategy of the game, how to go, how to scale, what kind of channel we could go, and go to the next level. And this is very important. So you do this switch when you start to think not about the numbers. Yeah, my LTV is that day. No, it's really about having this placing in a timeline, and really to open the discussion and bringing the LTV in all the steps of the funnel. So I'm going to show you now how we did it, how we were like the process, thinking process to try to help the client to have this more clear view on how much to invest, what kind of payback time, and what kind of expect from the campaign to predict ROAS, and so on. And so essentially, it's a very ad hoc process. So when you're approaching predictive LTV, you really have to go after what your game is about. You have to know your game, how to monetize. So substantially, you have to collect the data, see what kind of data is available. Then you start to visualize. You start to learn how the curves look like. It's like it really looks like you say, though. No, it's like much longer LTV. Actually, you're making money since 365 days and even more. And then, in this case, I can do a spoiler. We were using a model that was based on retention to estimate and to predict the LTV for this client. And then, of course, you have to deliver. You have to deliver a tool that is serving who is using it. Is serving user acquisition guy, in this case, is serving the client just to take out this risk and just to let him see through all these elements and how to tweak the system to find a better revenue. So what we did substantially was going after the data. We didn't want to ask time for the client because client was kind of relatively small. They want to focus on product development. So say, let's go with what we have first. So it was mainly about MMP data from Adjust, then some data from AdMob. There was some limitation out there in terms of how many days you can collect out of daily retention. So sometimes we did some extension of the curve based on power curves. And then the game, you really have to understand, in this case for us was mainly was about ads. And we saw that analyzing the data that the impact on in-app purchase was not that strong. So what we call the whales, the people are really spending a lot, we're not skewing the data. So we could more confidently use a system that we're using retention to predict what's going on. And when talking about retention, you have to talk about as well and kind of money that are coming. In this case is ARPDAU. So we could check that it was a good trend, but was not that much roller coaster. So we could use it. And we decided to predict or try to predict up to 365 days because it was relevant to us based on the curves and what we could saw in the data. And it's really important. There is the product, the game is alive. It's like there are so many things going on. There is a roadmap. So we have to check what was the going up and down of the element of the retention, what kind of impact some action that were taken by the developer on the data to avoid that there was some data that was really out of scale. And then, as mentioned, we need to serve the client, in this case, serving something that was useful and simple. When you want to visualize, a few years ago, actually, we did a research in AppAgent, trying to understand the company, what kind of prediction model they are using. Mainly, there are three types of. They are kind of ratio model that is using ratio of LTV. So ratio in between LTV, the 1, the 3, the 1, the 7. The one that is using actually retention, that is one that we selected for the client, normally is using the retention curve, the shape, and then based on the shape of the curve, you actually can understand how many days one user is active based on this retention. Then you multiply for how much money this user bringing, so plus all the day, so you will get the shape of the curve. In this case, there are so many other models. Behavioral model that's more advanced because go up to individual level. There are so many others. I was talking with some of you. ROAS, there are some more advanced method. In this case, we decide for retention per app method because we saw that it was really the data look stable on retention. We could rely on this. We did an adjustment because still we had 20% of in-app purchase. And then everything was in Excel, and then we decided to start to visualize. About the visualization, if you're starting, yesterday, PolyMC was talking about the tool they have. I found really a cool tool online, totally free, that I was using at the beginning. If you want, drop me a message, I'll share you the link. But this starting visualizing is where you start to realize, okay, where are the constraints? Why these curves look like that? So, okay, channel. And very important on this model, we were looking at the data, and we were looking about what is called fractional retention. We were looking at if the retention is stable for this game across time, so month against month, is stable against geo, and stable against channel and campaign. What we found out that, yes, was kind of stable on geo level, time level, but definitely was unfortunately different on channel and optimization-based model on the campaign level. So we decided to create what we called profiles, profile of retention. For example, we got a retention profile for Unity, one professional profile for another channel. And we start to see how this look like, these retention profiles. And you can see in the middle that the main channel were looking very similar. We could confidently estimate one from another using one retention profile, but the other one was really different. And AppDAO, in this case, was kind of stable. We could rely on that. So then we realized we created this model. It's not the final state. We are working now on adding key factor because we saw that increasing the spending was coming more installed than we can actually bring it on organic. And we are automating this. We are bringing this model inside of our automated reported. But still, it's very handy to have this information, understanding what are the inputs and what kind of output you can get. So input, you actually, we're adding real retention data from the live campaign. Then, of course, the AppDAO is something that you can easily get from your MMP. And then the CPI that is coming from the channel. You can visualize maybe directly in your MMP if you have integration with the channel. And then, lastly, when you are analyzing a campaign, so you're actually looking at this retention that is coming on day one, maybe, is looking more on profile one, or like, for example, Unity, or is looking more about Google. So we can play with that. And what you can get after this, definitely you have like the real number of when this campaign, this geo, and this channel is going to be profitable. It's really useful. So then you will see. Then, of course, you can always cross-check with the reality. Very helpful is that you want to see where is your risk. So you start to see the progression of the ROAS coming, and you want to see, okay, I'm going to expect that 50% of ROAS is coming on 30 days. I'm fine. But maybe the progression is not good as you would like to be, so then you can take action. And then you can play scenario, because you understand what is about, what are the elements that can be leveraged on user acquisition with more better creatives, negotiating, or with product enhancement. And definitely is interesting on when you want to open in your channel, then definitely you put the retention number and on day one, and you start to project. We saw that with day one retention data, the prediction is not super accurate, but starting from day 7, definitely the numbers start to look way good. And in terms of insight of going for this method, normally we see that is more exact when you stand to longer period. So at the beginning, we are trying to even try to see if the matching is even better. So some learning, it's really the matter that you really have to understand the LTV, really understand this measure. And if you are a data analyst or you have a big team of data, so there is the data team should sit together, or they should educate, and have to be a discussion about LTV, because there is a mutual understanding, and the data people need to serve, or way around, get the feedback on the other side about what kind of tool they're using, because otherwise the user acquisition are going to just look at the numbers, maybe it's fine, but won't get you to the next level. And when you're small, when you want to start, try to focus, stack simple. We found out that analyzing what kind of model I use in the company, normally they go fancy, but at some point there is a regression. They start to go back and try to find a compromise in between something very complex and simple. For us at the moment, it's really handy. The client is much more confident on investing. We are cross-checking the data. It's simple to use. We are happy. So it's kind of good, but we are starting having this have in mind. And lastly, especially when you go for new channels. So you can play the sheep, or you can actually play the lion. Well, the sheep looks like that. Yes, I would like to check your channel. How much is it? 20K. Okay. And what I can expect? I don't know. I can tell you until you don't start. Well, sounds familiar? But on the other side, if you you get understanding of the LTV, you can play the lion. And the lion looks like, listen, I need 30% LTV on ROAS on day 7. I need 28% retention rate on day 1, and I need LTV of 18% on day 7. Can you provide this to me? Whoa, yes, they have a lot of data normally when you work with the data. Definitely they can guarantee you, but they can provide you a lot of benchmark. And with benchmark, you feed the system, and you can try to pre-understand if the channel is going to work or not. So I hope that you're going to play the lion, and you're going to try to reinvesting time on LTV understanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions to Roberto? Again, I think we have...
I was sure about that.
Okay, just a short question. They came to you with day 19 data, right? Historical data.
They have much more, but they had already the game live since different years. So the data was there, but they were really going after a P&L that was, for them, was confident. So they really have this in mind. They could see that the best performing campaign will perform is close to that. So that was really going after to the 90 days.
Okay, but the part I don't understand is if they had historical data for 1 year, why did they come with data of 90 days and ask you to build LTV? Why didn't they just read it from the historical data? On the other hand, if they didn't have the retention for 1 year, how can you predict 1 year LTV? You don't even know if anybody is going to play that long.
We have some historical data up to 365. Of course, for the most recent cohort, as we said before, we were going after 120 days with some data from the database up to 250 days. But normally we are kind of extending based on data that we have in the past and extending the curve with the power curves. It looks like that is working.
So basically, they changed the game, they improved LTV, and you used the historical data from old version, and then you did the model based on like new numbers or new features.
No,
why didn't they read 1 year LTV and they came to you to model it? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, sometimes I was mentioning they were like kind of what they were looking for. They were looking for scale. So the need was about creatives, streaming, because they didn't have the buffer. They was looking for someone that was managing the campaign, And then for them, there was this constraint about the CPI, the performance of the campaign. There was really objective to go after this 90 days payback time. So what is different now? What is different now is that they know for all the campaign, all the geo, then what is exactly the payback time. And we are cross-checking always with the real data, how the cohorts are maturing. And what is different is that, yeah, they know that maybe if they move the payback time from 90 days to 120, so there is much more space to grow because they can access to different channels that are different CPI threshold. So they definitely they had a lot of data. They had the MVP, but was missing this going on discussion about this, and especially how you can use this information to have profitable campaign.
So basically, they hired you to do to read the model from one source and then just project it to other sources based on day 1 and day 7 LTV.
There was not a request. It was something that we was doing because since we were like scaling or like opening new channel, investing a lot of money, we want to be sure. Marius is gone. Okay. We would like to be sure that the client was confident to do that. We, as investing the money, was like kind of confident to do that. So we need that. Has to be there. I know that now some MMP are integrating this LTV prediction because it's a need that we can see a lot in the market across apps and games. Sometimes there is really you think that you know about your metrics, but if you don't work with them, so there's something that is losing and you're not really getting to the next level.
Can I have another question?
Yes.
Hello. So actually, we tried a very similar method to the one you described, which means like predicting the LTV, etc., etc. But I have two questions actually. First of all, could you clarify for me how do you extrapolate the retention data for like however many days for 90 days, just from day 1 or day 7? How did you arrive at it?
So the data that you have, so I'm not extrapolating that much. It's like from the historical data that we have, we go back. Let's say now we have to go back to have a six month time frame or even more. We're working with the daily retention. So we were like comparing the very long term retention from the longest cohort, the oldest cohort that we have. Then we have the kind of projection with the power curve to understand how does it look like. And we are trying to estimate, of course. We know that we're going after 365 days. Well, starting to have more uncertainty out there. But so far, cross-checking always how the cohorts are maturing. So we're kind of more confident about to understand that that's really maturing in the same way we are predicting.
Okay, so I can say that you were using more of a historical data than like trying to model the retention itself, right?
Yes. Like we get the retention profile.
Yes.
For a specific game, for a specific channel, geo, and a specific type of campaign, and then we try to see the retention. How does it look like? And you visualize that. You check on this, and you can see that there are some differences. So we create profiles. So then we start to play, okay, we launch a new channel, the retention is horrible versus the biggest channel or the best channels. So, okay, probably it look like it's going to be like these are the networks because retention day 1 is bad. Then, of course, you go adjusting. And it's a one model. Of course, there are different one. And actually, we are coming from an iteration. Before, we were like using a different one, like based on the relation in between LTV on different days and creating with the multiplier. But we saw that was really different performance when we are expanding to new channels. Probably because they have a different audience, different engagement, and the retention was playing a big role to really understand how the monetization in the future would look like.
Okay, thank you. Because that's exactly our finding, was that what we predicted was not really applicable to the new campaigns, right? So our model predicted something based on the historical data, and the new data actually was way off.
Channel-wise, they're very different. Then ROAS against CPI, they are behaving very differently, and you have to take this into consideration. So
thank you very much,
get in contact,
Roberto. You have the contact